The cat is playing with the damn fairy lights.
Stop it! God damn it, here. Just go.
Okay, I watched The Witcher, the series that just came out on Netflix. It's consisting of 8 episodes. I have some thoughts. I binged the whole 8 episodes right after each other, and when you binge, you tend to forget a lot of details when you're watching it, at least I do. So I might skip over some details. I have not read the books, but I have played The Witcher 3. I will be giving a brief summary of all of the episodes so that we all know what the story is about. Beware, there will be a few spoilers. If you don't want to have any spoilers and just my general thoughts, you can skip ahead to the section where I just give my overall impression of the show. The first episode opens with Geralt, the Witcher of Rivia, actually fighting a big monster in a swamp. This really felt like I was playing the game, but I wasn't holding the controller, and I loved it. This was very reminiscent of the whole monster hunting saga that is very Witcher-like, and I really enjoyed it. In this episode especially, they played with the idea of picking the lesser evil. In the Witcher games, you always have a choice. It's a very story-driven game, and depending on which choices you make, it might affect the overall story. Or he was gonna kill a woman, or he was actually gonna let her live and give her the opportunity to find a better life. And later on, a fight scene happened between him and some bullies, some of the henchmen of Stregobor, and I have to say, this is probably my favorite fighting scene in the whole show. This fight scene, in particular, really excited me because Geralt in the game as well has a certain fighting style. There were some moves where he has his elbow on top of the sword and he smashes people with it. I actually like those small scale fights better than big magical ones with a lot of explosions and blah. In the first parts of this episode, we're also introduced to the kingdom and the queen. What's her name again? I forget names very easily. What is this bitch's name? What is her name? Yes, Calanthe. That's her name. We see her going down and there's a girl near her. We find out that this is Ciri, one of the female protagonists of the Witcher series, and Geralt's adopted daughter. When the queen orders Ciri to go away, for a reason we do not yet know, Ciri screams and it's revealed that she has a sort of power. It's not clear yet what it is, but there is a strong indication that Ciri has some kind of very cool powers. Then we move on to episode 2. The character of Yennefer is introduced. So she starts off as like a kind of a Quasimodo character. She has a very crooked jaw and enlarged, and her mouth is kind of crooked, and she has how do you call it? Like the hunchback. She has a bokkel, we call it in Dutch, but I'm not sure how it's called in English. She's sold to what's her name again? Damn it. Yennefer is bought by ZEESEA, a character we do not yet really know. She's the headmaster of Aretusa. It's a school for women, especially to help them become sorceresses. We're also introduced to a bard named Jaskier. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He wants to write songs about Geralt and actually improve his image. It kind of reminded me of the movie Dragonheart, where the guy also tries to make poems about the main hero, and he always cracked me up because his poems were so bad. And at one time he had an amazing poem and then he forgot it right after. It really always makes me laugh. Geralt and this bard Jaskier are then captured by elves. They were the original mages and they actually taught humans how to use chaos and magic, but then the humans turned on them and eradicated all the elves. So now these elves are angry and they want to murder every single human. But then Geralt says, but I'm not a human, I'm a witcher, so don't put me in the same boat. And he's like, kill me if you must. And they're so like, well, okay, dude, we're not gonna touch that with a 10-foot stick. So then they just let them go. The whole point of this scene was to emphasize that Geralt is not human. Witcher also doesn't have human emotions, or at least that's what everyone thinks. Then it's also revealed later in the episode, which kind of relates to this story of the elves. Yennefer is part elf because one of her parents had some elvish heritage or something, which will be important later on in her story. Then we go to episode 3. Holy damn. Okay, so Yennefer, so the Quasimodo lumpy lady, is changed into this beautiful being. Yennefer in the games was very beautiful, very alluring, and an absolute powerful wizard. Sorry, not wizard, sorceress. Basically what she does is, I want to be pretty and I want to have power, and apparently those two go hand in hand, so you cannot be powerful without being pretty. That was kind of lame, but Oh well. From this moment on, I have to say, I don't know if it's the performance of the actress, Anya Chalotra, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but I don't know if it's Anya's performance or if it's just how the character is written. I can't really put my finger on it, but I liked her way better when she was the ugly woman. Way more interesting is actually the story going parallel with this, and it's a story of Geralt battling a Striga. A Striga is a creature, it's like an unborn child. It crawled out of the womb of its mother. To make it even more complicated, it's revealed that there's actually two timelines. The headmasters of Aretusa meets two characters that have to do with this Striga story when they're still children. So it's revealed that the events that you see happening are not aligned in time at all. This means specifically that the story of Yennefer and ZEESEA is decades before the story of Geralt that we're seeing right now. Ciri, in the previous episodes, she ran away and she was almost caught by a rider. And now she runs into a forest after meeting a boy. Episode 4. There's people in the woods where Ciri went, and there's these women, and there's water, and they have to drink it to have a pure heart. Only then the boy and Ciri can they stay. This is probably the episode with the best scene of confident Yennefer. She has been a sorceress that has been appointed to a kingdom. She has to do her job as sorceress of the court. The woman she's traveling with is, I think it's the queen or something, and she has a baby in her hands and it's a girl. And there's this whole thing, them talking back and forth, that the queen feels trapped, considered a broodmare, and she hasn't given the king any sons yet. But then on the other hand, Yennefer, as we know from a few episodes before, her whole story basically revolves around her trying to get...
Hello. Oh, Jesus Christ, you scared me!
The reason why Yennefer became beautiful is because she went through a very painful process augmenting her body. And what she had to give up for that, all of her reproductive organs. So her uterus was removed, all of the stuff that actually allows her to one day have children was completely removed. So now she's trying to find a cure because she's not really happy anymore. She doesn't see any reason to live other than being able to create real life, as she calls it. This is a very interesting conversation because it sets up the character and the motivations of Yennefer very well. Then the carriage where they're both traveling in gets attacked and they need to run away. So Yennefer constantly summons portals that they have to run through, but this guy with the weird knife spidery thing, I don't know what it is, they're following them, and it turns out that this is actually an assassin sent from the king to kill his own wife because her chances of having a son is completely non-existent anymore. When they go through one of the last portals, the queen is super annoyed with Yennefer because she's supposed to protect her, being a very ungrateful bitch towards Yennefer, to be honest. So Yennefer says, okay, bye. She portals away, and this really fucked me up. So the queen wants to hand over her baby to die in her stead. And then, of course, the guy kills her, because who wouldn't? Yennefer comes in at the last moment and she takes the baby away and she tries to run through a portal, but the guy throws a knife through the portal, which stabs Yennefer through the heart and into the baby. And this moment, I don't think I've ever seen a dead, bloody baby in any show, ever. Even in Game of Thrones. In Game of fucking Thrones, there is a baby dying, but you never see the actual stabbing or the baby lying bloodied on the bed. You do hear it, but in this show, you actually see the dead baby. That was a powerful moment, especially because we know that Yennefer has this story, you know, that there's a baby in her hands, and if it would have lived, she might have taken care of it, whatever, but she can't because it died. She sits on the beach, she talks to the dead baby, which is also quite a nice moment. She talks about maybe it's better this way, that you didn't have to suffer a lot, that you got to have these few moments, and then she buries the baby in the sand. What also happens in this episode, like damn, there's always so many things happening in one episode. There's this ball going on at the queen's castle. It's a ball in honor of the daughter, kind of, and men have to kind of try to win over the daughter to advance their political gains or to advance the status of their kingdom, etc., etc. A weird knight comes in and he says that he cannot show his face before the clock strikes 12, but then he reveals that he was actually bound to the daughter because of the law of surprise. The law of surprise is when you rescue somebody's life and then you invoke the law of surprise, which means that you will get that which the person does not know they have yet. This can be some land, this can be, if their only possession is a horse, which they did not have at that time, that might be it. But in a lot of cases, it's actually a daughter or a son. In this case, the queen's daughter was what the law of surprise was about. This whole piece wants to highlight how important destiny is. If you do not obey destiny, it will turn on you. So when the queen tries to get him executed or she tries to get him out of the castle, the daughter opposes this because of course they are lovers and they met before and they're bound by destiny and they love each other. So when they try to get him to go away, it's revealed that she also has powers. She screams in the same way that Siri does. There's a storm surrounding them and nobody can touch them because they're all blown away and they're floating up in the air and they're turning around and they're being all lovey-dovey and whatever. And then Geralt gets them back on the floor. The queen very reluctantly does agree to allow them to marry. Geralt wants to fuck off because he doesn't like parties and he's an introvert. But then the guy, the porcupine guy, the weird porcupine guy, he wants to thank him because he would have never been able to get the hand of this daughter without him. Very stupidly, Geralt says, okay, then I will do the same as you. I invoke the law of surprise, you give me what you don't know you have yet. But this is very dangerous. He says it very nonchalantly. Like, Geralt could have just asked for like a pint or something, or an apple that would have sufficed. But no, he says like, okay, I see the law of surprise, I see all the chaos, give me one of that. And all of a sudden the queen's daughter starts vomiting, which indicates that she might be pregnant already. I don't know. We're on episode 5 now. This is where we're introduced to one of the coolest monsters, in my opinion, the Doppler. It's a lot of spirits into one body and they can shapeshift. They can take over your voice, take over your whole looks and clothes even. The feather helmeted guy who tried to kidnap Ciri in the first episode is actually here to hire this guy. That feather helmeted guy, I did not realize at the time it was the same one that's actually hiring the Doppler guy. So I was very confused watching the whole thing because I thought they were separate characters. I didn't recognize him at all. He hires the Doppler guy to find Ciri. At the same time, Jaskier is like, long time no see, Geralt, so apparently there was a time skip. The mission this time surrounding a monster is the Djinn. A Djinn is kind of a genie, but it's an evil one. So when he catches this Djinn, he actually hurts Jaskier, the bard, and he has to search for a sorcerer or sorceress to heal. This is the point where Yennefer and Geralt finally meet in the most weird setting I've ever seen. They enter this room with a lot of fog and there's just people all around having sex everywhere in different positions, and it's very hard for the next few minutes to notice what's going on, to actually listen to the actors. I really like the moment when the camera was over the shoulder of Geralt. Yennefer was standing right here and there were 3 people in the back, like right here. There was 2 men and there was a woman hanging on the shoulders of both, and they were giving her oral sex while the other one was like squeezing her breasts and she was like going up and down, and it was just like a whole thing, and I was not listening to anything Yennefer was saying. The both of them go bathe together and it's very funny because meanwhile Jaskier is literally dying. He only had hours, so he's like dying in the next room and they're just sitting there bathing. Jaskier is lying on the bed and Yennefer is there, half naked of course, with the symbol of the uterus on the place where the uterus is supposed to go. Her plan is to use the Djinn's powers to find a cure for her uterus problem. But it doesn't happen, of course, and then Geralt saves her, but Yennefer is very angry because she thought that this was her only chance. He does love her, and then they have sex, I think. And then the episode ends with Ciri leaving the forest with, oh yeah, right, Mousesack, damn it. Oh, there's so many characters in this damn series. So there's this character Mousesack who knew Geralt as well. He's an important person that Ciri has known for her whole life. But this is the Doppler guy. So the Doppler has shapeshifted into Mousesack and then he takes Ciri to go. The boy that Ciri is with in the woods, because remember, she met someone, he's not important. He doesn't trust him. Episode 6. Okay, it's starting to pick up. So basically, an old guy meets Geralt and he needs Geralt to slay a dragon together with him and his 2 African-American henchwomen. So there's this hunt that is organized where multiple groups can participate to go slay the dragon together. There's a group of dwarves, a group of reavers, Geralt's company, and then apparently also Yennefer with a Sir Ake. And this guy cracked me up the whole episode. This episode I find is the worst in the whole series though. On the way to the dragon, the whole company is traveling together, by the way. On the way they meet a Herika. A Herika is kind of a human looking creature but with the face of an animal. It has fur, but it's very frail and very thin and it looks very malnourished. Geralt says like, okay, leave him, don't make any sort of moves or something. But then Sir Dumbass comes along and he starts hacking at the poor thing. He cuts off the arms, he cuts off the head, and he just keeps whacking it even though it's already dead. Geralt says it would have sufficed to just give him some food and he would have gone away anyways, meaning that Geralt does know when you should attack a monster and when it's just a very scared creature. He would never kill a creature if it didn't make a move to kill them. And the reason why Yennefer is here is revealed because she thinks that a dragon heart can still be a cure for her little uterus problem. She also needs to help this knight slay the dragon for her because it would also advance the kingdom's things because she's still in the political circle. But so the guy eats the Herika because he says that a kill should never be wasted or something. So he's the only one who is eating the beast. In the whole dialogue, he gets the shits and he needs to run off and take a massive shit. The next day, it's revealed that he has been killed while shitting. And they think it's the reavers. So then they go with the dwarves and they say that there's another path that is gonna get them to the dragon before the reavers. So they take this very dangerous path along a cliff. But then the old guy falls and also his 2 henchwomen do. There's a little bit of romance between Yennefer and Geralt happening, who cares? In the end, they reach the dragon's lair. And it's a green dragon with a dragon egg. And next to that is a gold dragon, and it's revealed that this gold dragon is actually the old man. He heard the cry of this female dragon and he wanted to help. So, okay. After that, Yennefer and Geralt have a very big fight. Geralt was taunting her for still believing that there was a cure, and then she is saying, oh well, you can talk, you invoked the law of surprise very conveniently so that you could have children yourself. Jaskier is still here, by the way. And then Geralt and Jaskier have a fight, and then Geralt tells Jaskier to go away. And I have to say, this exchange almost made me cry. The Yennefer-Geralt bickering I didn't care for at all, but Jaskier almost on the verge of tears while Geralt really shouts at him and wants him to go away. I felt that. It was kind of like the Fellowship of the Ring if Frodo told Sam to piss off. It's a bad sign if like the main characters that are supposed to be deeply in love don't invoke those same feelings for me as 2 bros do. Then the Doppler loses Ciri. Because of course, he loses Ciri. There we go. Episode 6. Episode 7. This is the episode where finally the 2 storylines are converging. The original Mousesack in the past meets Geralt in a cave. So this is all happening in the past. This is the cave of the castle where the queen lives. This is in the kingdom of Sintra, by the way. If I didn't specify it yet, it's the kingdom of Sintra. And there's an assassin that came for Geralt, sent by the queen apparently. And so Geralt storms out and he meets the queen in the courtyard. And he starts bickering with her because he's like, okay, first you try to assassinate me. And then he tries to invoke the law of surprise because it's been 12 years apparently. It's been 12 years since he was there. He knows that there has been a child at court. And now he wants to meet her or take her. And the queen is all like, oh, but you haven't been here for 12 years. Who are you to take care of her? She's mine. And so she's trying to trick the law of surprise, to trick destiny, which we talked about earlier, which is a bad thing. But by the way, there's an overlapping story in this whole thing. So apparently there's a kingdom called Nilfgaard, which is trying to invade the whole north of this world and is actually trying to reach Sintra. Now, the Queen Calanthe thinks she can hold off Nilfgaard and also Destiny. She tries to trick Geralt by hiring another girl who is not Ciri to go with him in her stead, but luckily Geralt finds out and confronts her, saying, this is not the bitch I ordered. She imprisons Geralt in the dungeons of the castle. And then we go back to the story of Yennefer. She visits an archaeological site where she meets Istred. Istred is her ex-boyfriend in Aretuza. She is trying to get back with him, but he says no thanks, you're a crazy bitch. And then she meets Vilgefortz. He's one of the wizards in the Brotherhood of Mages, and he's trying to convince her to come back to Aretuza because Isaiah specifically asked for her. So then this whole meeting takes place between all of the big mages of all of the kingdoms. And so they're bickering about, okay, Nilfgaard is invading the whole north. Will we stand by idly while Sintra, the kingdom who actually did not want any sorcerers in their court or didn't want anything to do with magic in general, will we help them, or will we stand by and just let them take care of it themselves because they didn't want us to be part of the gang? There's a few people, a few sorcerers and sorceresses who are for helping Sintra, and there's a lot of them that are against it. So in the second episode, where Yennefer was actually introduced in the school, there was this girl, she's called Fringilla. She was sent to Nilfgaard. Nilfgaard was actually seen as the shithole of everything. So Fringilla is obviously very pissed because she was gonna go to the cool guys, but then she went to the shitty place. And the whole time this meeting was going on, I was like, kill the bitch! She's right there! She's the only sorceress who can actually help this kingdom Nilfgaard succeed in their plans. But no, they let her go and she goes off, and of course this has major consequences in the next episode. So then there's this whole part about Yen getting high on herbs with 3 other students that came after her. She's talking about how awful it was for her to be in Aretuza, but I mean, she's a super badass, powerful sorceress now, so I don't get why she's actually complaining that much. The headmaster does convince her to actually fight with those who still want to help Sintra. Then Ciri, so remember Ciri escaped from the Doppler and from the woods, and she comes across a village. There she befriends a woman who takes her into her home. And then we all of a sudden cut back to when the castle of Sintra was being overthrown by Nilfgaardian soldiers. We see the parallel between where Geralt was at the time, because he actually was at the castle at that time, and how he nearly missed Ciri when she was running away. So here we come back to the beginning of the series. Now the story of Geralt has caught up to the story of Ciri. And after that whole flashback, Ciri runs to a swamp with the horse that she stole from the village. There she meets a few boys who were her friends in the Sintra kingdom. They try to, I think, rob her. And then she screams, and then everyone dies around her and she passes out, and there's this whole prophecy thing going on, and then she has visions and she's talking in weird voices, and that was kind of cool. Then she passes out and the episode ends. So now we're finally on the last episode. We see Geralt going into the forest where he sees the refugees from Sintra. He goes into the forest and comes across this grave digger, he thinks it is, but it's not. It's just a person who is trying to help the dead. He wants to bury them all. A lot of neckers show up. Neckers are these kind of tiny troll-like creatures. Geralt is bitten by one of them, and he needs to find a cure ASAP because it's very, very dangerous. We cut to him lying on a cart, and the man who was trying to bury all the nice people is bringing him to his home. There, Geralt is getting all of these flashbacks from when he was a boy, and this is very interesting because now we actually get to see more of Geralt's story, how he started the process of becoming a witcher. He takes a bottle of whatever and he drinks it, and he also pours it in the wound, and that seems to do the trick. All it takes is just a little sip of a vial and the rest on his leg, and he's as good as new. Ciri met a woman in the town and she's at her house. She has this vision of having to find Geralt anyways, so she runs away. Then we see Geralt arrive in the cart, and apparently the guy that rescued him is the husband of the woman who found Ciri. At first I was like, oh my god, please no, let them at least meet in this season because I'm getting a bit agitated. Luckily, Geralt stands up and goes to the woods, and we finally see Ciri run towards him, and she just gives him a big hug, and it felt earned. It really felt good that they finally met, and it was the moment that I was really waiting for. After hugging, she asks Geralt, who is Yennefer? So this is my general opinion of the whole thing. If you've watched the whole first part, that's quite frankly amazing. It's a lot of story packed into 8 episodes. Yes, we want to have a lot of story, but at times it felt so cramped. Instead of having one dedicated episode to maybe each character and then later on seeing them all together, I don't know if that would have been better, but right now it felt very busy. I have skipped over a lot of the details actually in the first part, believe it or not, but there's so many details. It feels as if in each and every single scene they have something that they want you to remember. Like every single scene has something important. It's resolved in the next episode and then we move on. What I could gather from this show is that there's 4 main storylines. Geralt's storyline. So his main storyline is to try to get to Ciri, and she's a child that was promised to him through the law of surprise. Then we have Yennefer. Her main storyline is that she's trying to regain her ability to procreate. Then we have Ciri. She is the Princess Cirilla of the Kingdom Sintra, and she is also trying to find Geralt. All of this is going on. All of those 3 main storylines are happening. They also want you to remember that there's a big war going on, overlapping every single storyline. So the Kingdom of Nilfgaard is trying to take over all of the other kingdoms. I really feel like I need to watch this series a second time to really get everything, because so many things were happening. Every single episode there's new characters being introduced and I'm supposed to remember who they are by name. I don't know, I had some difficulties remembering who everyone was. I was invested in some of the characters, I was invested in some of the story, but not all of it. So, a few of the main characters that I want to talk about, what about their performance? Henry Cavill did a marvelous job. They could not have picked a better actor to play this role. I really think he did a great job. The voice, the looks, the fighting style, the mannerisms of Geralt were portrayed very well in this show. That was spot on. The character of Triss was the biggest letdown for me. How do I say this without offending anyone? Triss is one of the most iconic romantic interests next to Yennefer for Geralt. Triss is played by Anna Schaffer or whatever her name is. I believe that the mannerisms of Triss were portrayed decently by the actress, but I just don't think she didn't feel like Triss at all. If you haven't seen anything Witcher related, you haven't read the books, you haven't played the game ever, I think it might be fine for you, but I'm telling you that the Triss character and the Yennefer character were not really Yennefer and Triss, if that makes sense. The actress of Ciri was fine. I thought Ciri was fine in the show. I have no real complaints about that. But all of the other characters, apart from those few, Jaskier I also liked, but all of the other characters were a little bit forgettable for me. So the queen was cool. She was kind of a badass queen who didn't take shit from everyone, but was still bound to the patriarchic ways. Like, what I also liked were the monsters. The monsters were great in the show. I just wish there were more monsters, more lore. I think it would have been better if it was like an episodic thing for at least 5 episodes talking about monsters and really delving deep into the world of The Witcher, because I think people who have never played the game or have never read books have not really been introduced well to the world of The Witcher. The soundtrack was very cool and on point. At times when Geralt and Jaskier were walking around in cities or something, the cities looked exactly like the cities in the game and the soundtrack was nearly identical. So I really felt like I was in the game of The Witcher again. The environment was beautiful. The only thing that I can harp on for that is Aretusa. It was quite small. It didn't feel like this grand school. It just felt like a little prison on a rock. The magic system, explained as chaos, were very nice, but I find that the power levels weren't very consistent. All of these sorcerers, at times they were very overpowered. They can teleport, they can do all this crazy shit, and at times they were just stabbed by a sword and they died. And it was only clear in the last episode that there was like a limit to their powers. They have magic that can run out for some reason, and it was never established throughout the whole series, so I was very confused. Geralt almost never uses magic, which annoyed the shit out of me. He used some potions, which I liked, and he used, I think, Aard and maybe Irden once and Axii just once. He never used Igni, which is the fire spell. You never see him use it. In one of the first episodes, I think the first or second one, he uses Aard, and I was like, oh my god, yes, the magic system. Geralt's magic is gonna have some time to shine in these episodes, but no, like he almost never used it, which is kind of a letdown. If you're looking for a kind of Monster Hunter type series, I'm not sure if you will like this one, because for a series like The Witcher, there is actually not that much fighting going on. I just wish that they showed some more interesting monsters at times, like specters or elementals or something. So I hope in the next season they will show more monsters. They will show how Ciri develops herself into a witcher. And I hope that the characters will feel more like the characters they're supposed to portray. Overall, I would give this series a 6 out of 10. There was just too much that I was waiting for. If you didn't see anything Witcher related in advance, I'm not sure how you would have liked it. Maybe you would have been confused. Maybe some of the references are not clear to you yet. But I hope in the next season we will see some more development between the characters and the world. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the future if you want me to comment on any other series or videos. I really like commenting on them. I'm new to this, so I'm still trying things out, but thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!